said. "Tell me about her." So he told me. Quite a Laura Jean Libby story. She has everything, it seemed, that could be desired in a woman. "And beautiful?" I asked him. For reply he brought out a photograph from his desk. I tell you, Lester, it fairly took my breath away. I felt as though I were looking at a masterpiece, say Andrea del Sarto's Madonna, and I would as soon have thought of marrying the one as the other. It was like snatching a star down out of heaven. Curtis was leaning back in his chair watching me, and he smiled as I looked up. "Well?" he asked. I went over and shook hands with him. I couldn't find words to tell him what I felt. "But where has she been?" I demanded. "How does it happen she was left for you?" "She's been abroad for 5 or 6 years," he explained. "That's no answer," I said. "Why isn't she a queen, then, or a duchess at least?" "She's had chances enough, I dare say," and he smiled at my enthusiasm. "I agree with you that she's worthy to wear a crown. But then, you see, she has ideals too. Perhaps none of the kings she met measured up to them." "And you did?" "She's good enough to think so." I had been idling over the photograph, and my eyes happened to fall upon some lines written across the back. I didn't know them then, but I've looked them up since. "My days were sunless, and my nights were moonless. Parched the pleasant April herbage, and the lark's heart's outbreak tuneless, if you loved me not." I tell you, Lester, and there was a little break in our junior's voice, I was overwhelmed. You know, love, passion, the real thing the poets write about, has grown mighty rare in this world. We're too commercial for it, I suppose. Too much given to calculating chances. But here I was, face to face with it. Well, I was unequal to the situation. I didn't know what to say, but he helped me. "The date hasn't been set yet," he said, "but it will be some time in June. And the reason I'm telling you all this is that I'm going to ask a favour of you. It's to be a church wedding, and I want you to be best man. I hope you won't refuse." I was glad of the chance to be of service, and told him so, concluded Mr. Royce, glancing again at his watch and rising hastily. "The wedding's to be at noon to day. You see, I'm cutting it rather fine. I'd intended to go down yesterday afternoon, but that Barnaby petition upset my plans. I'll be back to night or in the morning at the latest. In the meantime, if anything imperative turns up, a telegram to the Sheridan House at Elizabeth will catch me." "Very well," I replied, and made a note of the address. "But don't worry about the work here. I'll get along all right." "Of course you will," he agreed, and an instant later the door closed behind him. But more than once in the course of the morning I was inclined to think that I had spoken too confidently. Mr. Graham, our senior partner, had broken down about a month before, under a stress of work which had been unusual, even for our office, and had been ordered away for a long vacation. 1 or 2 members of the office force had resigned to accept other positions, and the task of filling their places was one which required thought and care. So for the time being we were extremely short-handed. That morning, perversely enough, it seemed to me that the work piled up even more rapidly than usual, and it was not until the mellow chimes of Trinity, marking the noon hour, floated through the open window that I succeeded in clearing away the most pressing portion of the morning's business, and leaned back in my chair with a sigh of satisfaction. That Marjoribanks case was now ours. Mr. Royce would approve. No doubt at this very moment he was before the altar of the Elizabeth Church, listening to the low responses. I had only to close my eyes to picture the scene, the dim, flower-decked interior, the handsomely gowned, sympathetically expectant audience, the bride, supremely beautiful in her veil and orange blossoms, her eyes downcast, the warm colour coming and going in her cheeks. "Telegram, sir," said a voice, and I swung around to find the office boy at my elbow. "For you, sir," he added. I took the yellow envelope and tore it open absently, my mind still on the vision my fancy had conjured up. Then, as my eyes caught the words of the message, I sat bolt upright with a start. It read, "Come to Elizabeth by first train. Don't fail us. Royce." End of chapter 1. Chapter 2. A Bride's Vagary. 2 minutes later I was speeding downward in the elevator, having paused only long enough to give a word of instruction to the head clerk. A glance at my watch showed me that if I would catch the 12:38 I had no time to lose. But luckily a cab was passing at the moment, and I jumped aboard the boat for Jersey City just as the gates were closing. Not until I was safely aboard the train did I give myself time to conjecture what this imperative summons meant, but during the half-hour run to the little New Jersey city I had ample time to try to puzzle it out. One thing was quite certain. It was no ordinary emergency which had moved Mr. Royce to summon me from the office at a time when I was so badly needed there. I got out the telegram again, and read it word by word. It affected me as a wild cry for help would have done, at midnight in some lonely place, and it was just that, a wild cry for